Welcome everyone to this Montana Book Festival event, Falcons of North America, second edition. Kate Davis presents Birds of Prey. My name is China Reavers. I am a volunteer host for the Montana Book Festival, and I want to welcome you, the audience, into this virtual space from Bozeman, Montana. The Montana Book Festival acknowledges that we are in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish Kootenai, the Absaloke, and Cheyenne people. Montana Book Festival strives and will continue to strive to help promote Indigenous voices as one of the ways our organization acknowledges and respects the Aboriginal people of Bozeman. For those of you zooming in from outside of Bozeman, I encourage you to take a look at the link Lauren Korn has just put up in the chat so you too know whose Aboriginal territories you are currently occupying. Go ahead and let us know where you're zooming in from this afternoon. We're really excited to welcome Kate Davis to this year's virtual festival, but I first want to take care of a little housekeeping. We'd like to welcome you as attendees to submit your questions to our author via the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to use the chat function to talk amongst yourselves while the event is taking place. On the back end, Lauren, the Montana Book Festival director, will be monitoring both the Q&A and the chat for any logistical questions you may have throughout the event. The Montana Book Festival wishes to thank our event sponsors, Arts Missoula and the Whitefish Review. With that, I'd like to introduce you to our author. Kate Davis is the founder of the nonprofit Raptors of the Rockies. She keeps a dozen non-releasable falconry birds in a facility at her home in Montana. She has authored 6 books on raptors, and Raptors of the West won the National Outdoor Book Award and the Montana Book Award. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you. And I am thrilled to be here. Definitely wish that it was live and in person and you could see these birds up close. But what I think we'll do is we'll start with talking about the Raptors of the Rockies in a PowerPoint. And we'll talk about how these birds are inspiration for the various things I do, photography, artwork, and of course, books. And Sonora is an Oplomado falcon, and she's 8 years old. And she is a constant companion here in the house and kind of hangs out on that plant behind me, the nice piece of newspaper underneath. And she's one of our Raptors of the Rockies. So here at the facilities in Florence, I'm looking out the window right now at the whole spread. We keep these birds and use them for education. And Oplomado falcons, the northern range of these birds are endangered of this subspecies of bird. And so the Peregrine Fund kept these birds, the Peregrine Fund, and released them for nearly 20 years, hoping that they could reestablish a population down in Texas and actually Arizona and New Mexico. And the program didn't really work. And so they quit their breeding program. And I was over at the Peregrine Fund talking to Pete Jenny, who's the director, and he's also a U of M alum, as am I. And I said, hey, Pete, can I have an Oplomado falcon? And he said, sure. So Sonora joined us 8 years ago, and I was flying her here at the property in Florence. We'll see some pictures of that in a minute. And she decided to chase everything that flew by. And she flew to Idaho. She had a transmitter on her tail right here. And I did get her back, obviously, after 3 days, and it was just luck. So she doesn't fly for falconry and hunt anymore, but she does education programs and hangs out here in the house. And she's a great program bird, 8 years old. Sonora, and Oplomado is a word that means lead colored in Spanish and Latin also. And that's this coloration on her back. And then you see she has what's a cummerbund, and then this stripe. So this is very stunning and well, spoiled bird. So we're going to see a little PowerPoint now that talks about the we're going to see. Oh, what is going on here? We're going to start over again, playing from the start. So I'm very happy to present the overview of Raptors of the Rockies of 33 years. And if I can. Okay, so we're located in the Bitterroot Valley in Florence, nonprofit 501c3. And this is actually where I am sitting in that chair right there. That peregrine is standing right on a perch, and Sonora is hanging out on her perch. I'm there to put her back, but that's the office. And now Sonora's back on her perch. But it's just kind of fun to see how you can jam pack all these birds everywhere. And people always ask me, how do you get these photographs? Well, I was a Nikon buff forever and shooting these DA10s and also 500 millimeter on a tripod. But now I have gone Sony mirrorless. And this is actually one of our book photographers' actual cameras. He sold me the Good Luck camera. And people always want to know, how did you get into animals and especially into raptors? Well, it's dinosaurs and monsters when I was a kid. And I always was into animals. So I always tell the kids, if you are a zoologist, a young zoologist. And my dad turned me on to photography. He had a darkroom in the basement. And so I was photographing all these animals that I had with the Cincinnati Zoo. A club I joined in 1973, and it was sort of handpicked kids in middle school from around the Cincinnati and Kentucky area. We all met at the zoo every Saturday for a club at 6 a.m. and did field trips, had exams, papers were due quarterly. And I tell the kids, there I am. See, I have my basket of baby birds. That's how long ago this was. So I started in 1973, and I was rehabbing screech owls and kestrels mostly, but foxes and raccoons. And so I had all this experience when I was a kid. Plus they had me illustrating their magazines, doing education programs, as well as rehab, and doing taxidermy work and falconry. And so in 1988, we started Raptors of the Rockies. And I read this book, as did many, many, many people out there, My Side of the Mountain by Gene Craighead George. Little boy runs away from home. It's okay with his parents. He flies a peregrine. He lives in a hollow tree. And so I did all of these things, ran away from home, came to Missoula, lived in a tool shed, and I fly a peregrine. So there's that name, Craighead. Then I saw John Craighead on the left here give a lecture back when I was in high school on the grizzly bears of Montana. And I said, that's it. That's where I'm going. He and his brother, Frank, were the grizzly bear experts and telemetry and falconry experts back then. And off to Montana I went, 1978, and I did all this taxidermy. That was what I did for a living, was taxidermy all during college. I did all those study skins. And then lo and behold, here I get to go hunting with my falcon, with John Craighead, the inventor, so to speak, of falconry in the United States. That's his wife, Margaret, and my friend, Jay Sumner. We're still flying birds together. So it was Barry Wakeman at the zoo that gave me all this experience as a kid. Gene Craighead George that wrote the book that influenced me, and John Craighead that influenced me even more and had me relocate from Ohio to Montana in the 70s. This is my proudest achievement, actually, aside from the book we're going to talk about today. I'm the first female, this is the alumni magazine, the alum magazine for U of M, and I'm the first, female non-athlete bachelor's degree to make the cover, the non-athlete. So in 1988, my husband and I moved to this ranch, and I realized I could kind of remodel all these outbuildings and perhaps get my permits in order to do raptor education again, as I had done in the 70s and back at the zoo. So I applied for my permits and I got them. because of all that experience I had back then, and did 13 years of programs from the facility in Clinton. It was a rental property. Then in 2001, we bought this property in Florence, and it's 10 acres on the Bitterroot. You can see those are the Kootenai Crags, the Bitterroot Mountains in front, Bitterroot River behind. These are all the outbuildings. Back in 2001, the neighbors were convinced it was a puppy mill. Why are they building these little buildings out here? But I'm very proud of them. And now you see they have the shrubs, the trees, the growth. They're very, very comfortable. You can also see we had a little fire across the road. We weren't in any danger because fire camp was right on the other side of that house. So we were safe. And then here's the eagle enclosure right on the Bitterroot River. This is a typical building with the PVC pipes and the vines and the trees and the shade and the sun, open roof, closed roof, so they can get in or out of the environment and the elements. And here's a shot from just the spring, and you can see all these trees have grown up, and it's very comfortable. This is year round, obviously, every single day of the year for 33 years. And we have our teaching team, and I'm very proud. That's Sonora. Sonora is a desert bird, and so she comes inside when it's cold, and she has a back room and is tied to a perch, but she also has a heat lamp and gets out of the wind with, I put shower curtains up to block the wind, and she has a heated perch. And so some of these birds come in the winter, but most of them are comfortable outside. So the first permit I got back in '88 was a rehabilitation, and I did not do any rehab. I did a couple birds. I did one bird this year. That was pretty easy. But these birds are not releasable for some reason. And iPod, the pygmy owl, is missing a wingtip. Owen had a broken wing. Jillian had a wing damage. And then Simon, this little owl that we got as a baby, is an imprint, great horned owl. Then we have eagle exhibition permit. Now those birds are not releasable, so they're held on what we call a possession permit, and they must be used for education. Then we have eagle exhibition. There's Nigel and Sunny. That's Ella Fitzgerald, Wes Montgomery, Nina, Simone, Sunny Rollins. Oh, I see a pattern developing here. And then we have a falcon, and I have a falconry license. So these birds are actually belong to me. Sibley the Peregrine is the most famous. She's been in 4 TV shows. There's a film of her they actually play in New York City at the Museum of Natural History. We'll meet her in a minute. She's hanging out over there. And she does education, 652 programs in 18 years. Plus, she's still catching ducks. And she's named after David Sibley, who I did programs over at Pine Butte Guest Ranch with him for 8 years. And it's just so fun to have Sibley meet Sibley. That is, by the way, the best field guide you can get, the Sibley field guide, I think. Sonora came to me as a baby. You can see that's her little toy. And she hangs out inside and every day, and she hangs out inside, just kind of keeping her tame and happy and fun, but she does live outdoors. And then we have Maisie. Maisie is our brand new peregrine that we got this July from a breeder in Port Angeles, shipped over in a crate on a plane. And she is an angel, mostly. We're training her. I'm training her right now for flying. These are the Raptors of the Rockies programs. Look at the look on her face. She is not too sure about that. And her little friend down here who's in college now. But the programs we do are mostly, they're geared towards K-5, although we will do other grades. But these are kids in Salmon, Idaho. And this is when Nigel, the golden eagle, comes out of his crate, and the teacher took a picture of the kids. I never thought to do this. And some of the faces on every time I see this, I look at this little girl. But when I do these programs, I do PowerPoints around the country. I always say, and this young man is now the governor of Idaho. And everyone believes me. I have no idea what happened to him. But again, with these 4 federal and state permits, I have to keep records. And so I know I add up the date, the organization, the number of people, the contact, the birds I take, the miles, added up. This is programmed for me 1,810 programs for this many people, 136 schools. So they are well known, these birds. They're very comfortable in programs. One of my favorites are these art programs for kids. And there I am wearing a dress. I love that. They had to draw that one. The kids are not afraid to go full color and put a sombrero on the head of a giant great horned owl. I just love the fearless quality these kids have. My friend Bev Gluckert, who's on our board of directors, and I have been doing this Missoula Art Museum Birds and Art Raptor camp. It's a full week camp. And these kids make these paper mache birds, different kinds of birds, but we always say make a raptor. These are these twins that was on their 7th birthday. And I tell the kids that I'm going to come to your house, make sure you have those. In 10 years, a kid brought his over here that is 22 now. He's had it all these years, his owl, at his parents' house. And sometimes they're fearless and they go, I am making the extinct flightless Hesperornis swimming the seas of the late Cretaceous. Think that kid reads? Yep. We also do art programs for grown-ups. This is a clay studio, and here she is showing Simon, her rendering of Simon the Owl. These birds are great models. And then I do this drawing class at the art museum as well. I've done Audubon programs in 3 states. Here is Sibley in a church in Coeur d'Alene, and right here, you can see her, and the big screen. They had that kind of stacked on a bunch of hymnals to get it up high enough in that church. I thought that was pretty cool. And then this is 700 kids. They called this Raptors in the Rafters. It was up in Polson. It was 3 schools they brought together. These keynotes are a lot of fun. Doing these all over the place. I don't take birds. I take my my computer and do a PowerPoint similar to this. And we make everybody hoot like an owl at the end. That's pea green boat. That, if you listen to public radio, if you ever wondered what it looks like, that's a golden eagle standing in the studio, and there's Annie Guard through the glass. I stand there with a bird on this side of the glass. She's over there safe. And this is just a few weeks ago with Maisie. We had a person take a photo outside, but we do this every couple months. Pea green boat on public radio. Yes, we do take live birds. I did a TED Talk that is as completely terrified here as I have ever been in my life. And then I photoshopped myself in over on the side because I left after that. We do programs for the Chamber of Commerce. We do programs at the Elk Foundation. This one was sponsored by Hooters. I'll let you read the caption, but they served food at the end, the Hooters gals. Thank you very much. Keeping abreast. So these birds are not only used for education, and that's why we have them, but they're also inspiration to me and inspiration for photography. And they get me excited to go out and try to capture our birds in action, but also wild birds in action. And we've done a number of magazine articles. And this is fun. Eric Green took me for a flight many years ago. Here's our house, and here is my welding studio, my printmaking studio. Here are all the buildings all lined up. And here is my walk, beep, 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 right across the slough, right over to here, and installed right here. Why? Because there's a bald eagle nest right there, right across the river. The nest was built in 2011. And for 6 years, they had chicks. I went down there every night and taking pictures of the eagles. You can also find ospreys, red-tailed hawks next door. Peregrines were flying in, although that's from the Blackfoot. Great blue herons across the river. This is my favorite photo, baby great horned owls. And then the eagles themselves. And this one I love. The eagles are landing right next to each other all the time, peeking through the leaves. And here, this is the most famous shot of all. That bald eagle had left the nest 2 hours prior. After 3 months of hanging out in the nest, the eagle fledged to a snag, a scenic snag, I call it, hanging out there, first flight ever in its whole life, and a kestrel lands on her head, his head. The kestrel was guarding her nest, and the eagle was flying over the top of the nest, and that kestrel landed on that eagle's head twice, as if to say, get out of here, buddy. And that eagle went back to the nest, I'm not making this up, and hung out for 3 days. It's a jungle out there. These birds are an inspiration for art. I do these dry point etchings. Just finished this one this week. And so there's Owen the owl. And then I have Maisie's kind of hanging out back here, helping me run these prints. I print them in here with birds hanging out. And I do these dry point etchings. Before this, I did zinc plate etchings with acids and solvents, and it's just not healthy. This stuff's fun. I also weld these birds out of steel. Bill Orman in 2003 or 4, I can't remember. He's the incredible artist over in Drummond. He taught me how to weld, and I kind of took it from there, and I make these great big birds. They're all over the yard. And then, of course, and that's why we're here, these birds are the inspiration for books. And the books that I've done with Mountain Press Publishing here in Missoula started in 2002. And this is the first book. This is way out of print, but it's my Raptor program for K through 5 on paper. And that was fun. John and Rob are my friends from Snowball, and I truly bugged them until they caved and said, okay, we'll make your Raptors of the Rockies book. So I went to a conference at Raptor Research Foundation conference in Bakersfield, California. My first conference, my first paper, when you check in, they ask, will you be checking in with a bird? Because it was a falconry conference there as well. And I met these two fellows, Nick Dunlop and Rob Palmer. And these are the best bird photographers Rob has one in the world. Nick is so well known. His stuff is at the Smithsonian. Rob is all over the place. And I said, hey guys, would you like to do a book on falcons? So for 2 years, we worked on this book, 2006, 2007. And then I handed off all the chapters, and here I am sitting at the desk with piles and piles of books. Sibley standing on her perch, listening to jazz. Took me 2 years to write this book. Had the editors help me. And one of the first reviews on Amazon, geez, even if you don't read, there are over 200 beautiful color photos in the book. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, don't read the book, look at the pictures. And Mountain Press said, you know what, Kate, they kind of have a point. Let's do a coffee table book. And so we did this, Rob and Nick and I, came out in 2011, and it won the National Outdoor Book Award. And this book is so fun. It also won the Montana Book Award grand prize. And I remember my mom and I went over to Big Sky to accept the award. And they gave me this giant poster of Rancho Deluxe signed by Tom McGuane. I met Tom McGuane at the festival, the book, Montana Book Festival at downtown at the hotel. And I gave him this big speech about this movie. And he just said, tell me about the bird, because I had Sibley with me. So they got me this poster. But this book, Raptors of the West, I divided all of the birds into habitats, because I tend to just flip open and look at the falcons. So the book I did after that, Stackpole, published this in 2013. And it's a bald eagle nest. Oh, and you can see the male flying in with a fish. Right here, and there's the chick, and there's the mom, and there's the fish. And that's the first photo I got at this nest, and I was there for 3 months. And it's over by East Missoula on the highway, on the railroad tracks. Not very much fun to stand there, but now I have my 6-minute walk. 4 chicks. Do you think all 4 chicks would ever stand up at once? No. And I finally got all 4 chicks standing up. Only 12 bald eagle nests in the world have ever had 4 young fledged, or 4 young even in the nest. Then I did this book with Rob. He is the kestrel guy, pint-sized predator. That was fun. Then I did this book, Birds Are People Too. And this is my stretch. This is my take on hilarious humor from the avian world. I took pictures of birds and I put little captions on there. hey, I'm out of paper on this side, do you mind? That's the very first one. And many people close the book after that. They read that caption. This is my favorite, though. It's the big female bald eagle from across the river and the little male, and they're looking. Look at that intense look. Well, would you look at that pizza deliveries every night this week? And she puts on such airs at the farmer's market. That, to me, says it all. So that book has a couple hundred photos with captions in it. And then along came a little pandemic, and it is time to redo Falcons of North America because we have 13 years of new science. Here's Sib standing with the new book. Pandemic time. And I went over there, Jeannie Knuckles and I worked on this book with our masks over there at Mountain Press. And there's a picture of John Reimel that owns the publisher Mountain Press. And that's my little palette of books that I'm selling out of my car right now. And we have 13 years of a new study, and it's a genetic study, okay? And in the past, we had the order of birds of prey. We had New World vultures, all the hawks, kites, ospreys, eagles, and all the falcons, all in one order. That's called taxonomy. So raptor means seize and carry away. These are the living dinosaurs. And in taxonomy or classification, they hooked all three of these together, owls in their own order. And they were doing that by external traits. They call that morphology. They're looking at internal anatomy, shared behavioral traits, and then evolutionary age, which is more recently evolved and which is an older group of birds. And so they determined in 2012 that falcons are in their own order. And these birds went to the front of the class. They're called the super raptor, or the top most of the predatory birds. So they're the most recently evolved, and owls are in their own order, and they have the same traits because of convergent evolution. They have to catch and kill prey. And so that's what this book did. It took the new science, and I decided to rewrite all these chapters with the new science, because we now have the super raptor in 2008, the falcons. And of these falcons, we have the birds that these are the chapters that I wrote, and I added new chapters. Current falcon threats is huge now. 4 falcon tails is a brand new chapter. Morphology and physiology is new. And then the species accounts, kestrel merlin, oplomado, prairie peregrine, gyrfalcon. So let's start over again with the book that came out in 2008. And let's do another book. And so this is a larger copy, is a larger trim size, they call it, larger number of pages, more chapters, species accounts. Wow. And I have to say wow, because David Sibley wrote a review that said, doing justice to the falcons in a book is a tall order, but this one surpasses expectations. Filled with fascinating information and absolutely breathtaking images, I find myself going back again and again to browse or just to stare at a photo. Wow. Well, thanks, David. That's pretty nice. So we started over. And the species accounts, this was a lot of fun because we really upped those. I mean, I had to redo the range maps. But for example, the gyrfalcon, all of the species accounts have these, which are the measurements, the description, the range, the habitat, then behavior, flight, breeding, vocalizations, movement, conservation, the subspecies, etymology, which is how did they get that name, and then the tidbit. And the tidbit is what you feed birds when you're falconry birds when you're training them. There's a little tidbit, but I call it a tidbit, is just a fun little bit of knowledge. And the tidbit for gyrfalcons is that by carbon dating their mutes or their poop at a nest site in Greenland, the mutes were 5 feet deep. And at the very bottom, they judged that this nest had been used for 2,700 years continuously. So that's our tidbit about gyrfalcons. It's just a fun fact. And then a lot of new photos. This is actually across the street from my house. up One Horse Creek, and my house is right where that falcon is, across the valley here in Florence. We have action shots like you would not believe. Look at these birds. This peregrine has just said, enough of you, Mr. Pelican, out of here. These are two peregrines playing with a dead skunk. And here's a peregrine that says, enough, Mr. Goose, away with you, go away. And so we have these chapters that have new photos in there. This one is amazing that Nick Dunlop got. This peregrine has a sanderling in one foot and a dunlin in the other. I don't think anyone's ever gotten a photo like that. He has a bunch of photos like that, such as these. And he goes around and chases these super flocks, these enormous flocks, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of European starlings, and they're flocking up. And this is over on the West Coast. And Nick in 2008 started chasing these. He has videos on his website. Nick Dunlop is his name. And there's a peregrine right in the middle. And you would think that these birds, the fastest birds in the world, the Peregrine Falcon, 240 miles an hour, would fly into the flock, grab one with each foot and one in their mouth. And these starlings get away. They're difficult to catch in those numbers. It's just amazing. So Nick has these photos. And then I also have these sidebars. That's a sidebar that we added about peregrines catching starlings. We also have a peregrine fun sidebar. And this falcon research sidebar, this is fun. This is a Tundra Peregrine. Okay, there's 3 subspecies of peregrines in North America. And we have at the Anatum or Continental that live right around here in the center of the US and up into Canada. The Peel's peregrine lives on the coast over here, and it's non-migratory. It moves a little bit. But the Tundra Peregrine is the widest, has the longest migration of any of the 19 subspecies of peregrines. And they will go from up here in the Arctic Circle, 10,000 miles one way down to Chile. So this guy, Bud Anderson, Southern Cross Peregrine Falcon, and it's called the Falcon Research Group. He's over in Washington on the coast. They had a gentleman give them a radio transmitter. His name is Keith Bildstein, and he runs the Peregrine Fund, or excuse me, Hawk Mountain Sanctuary in Pennsylvania. So Bud went down to Chile and he put this transmitter on a bird named Sparky. They named him Sparrow King. And he flew up here 8,000 miles one way, all the way over here to the Arctic Circle. And on the way back, they did a loop migration. Sparky, this is his migration, stopped outside the office of the guy that bought the transmitter to go down to Chile, Keith Bildstein. That bird was right there, okay? And then it flew all the way back down to where it spent its winter the year before. And they tracked some of these birds as long as 8 years. This other bird's pretty famous, Elizabetha. She stopped in New Jersey for a few days. They thought, oh my goodness, she's not moving. Well, they do stage, but this is getting to be kind of crazy. And in one day, she flew from New Jersey to Florida in 16 hours. And she had a tailwind of a little tropical storm. But 16 hours, she flew all the way from New Jersey to Florida. So we have found all of this new information. It's a lot of fun to have in the book. And then there are these photos. There's a peregrine flying into a flock of dunlins on the Washington coast. That's such a signature Nick Dunlop, amazing photo. And then Rob Palmer. And this is a caracara, which is also in the falcon. It's a falcon in that order, Falconiformes. And this is a true falcon, a falco. That is an Oplomato falcon. And it's just going out of here, buddy. And he just captures these amazing photos. By the way, he's in the field all day, every day. And he does not ever tire of it. Same with Nick. And they are my heroes. So thanks to Nick Dunlop and Rob Palmer, we have this book. And it has, again, over 200 photos. I can't remember how many, but lots of new ones, over almost 200 new ones. So Rob and Nick and I kind of split the photos, and I have about 75 and Nick has about 75. Rob has more. And we do these book signings. Unfortunately, that's what we were hoping to do today, is to do a live program. But here we can see this is chapter 1. There's Sibley hanging out when Falcons of North America came out, the first edition. And then 2008, we hosted, Raptors of the Rockies hosted the Raptor Research Foundation here conference, the international conference here in Missoula. And that's at Fact and Fiction downtown. Rob, me, Nick, we haven't aged a bit, no. There's Ian over at the Book Exchange. And then this is the definition of confusion, doing a Montana Book Festival presentation on kestrels using an Aplomato falcon. And again, there's John Reimel, who's helping me with that one. That was pretty fun. So over the years, it's been pretty exciting to see the press that we got. We have a great big story about this book that was in there. That was in the Missoulian, but all these reporters think they thought of this raptor, rapture, and raptured with and rapture and rapture. And they feel that this is brand new. But to be honest, you really can't, you get an emotion when you see these birds. And that's the goal of our program. All 3 of these kids are college graduates now. This is down at Tucker Crossing Ranch. And they are out there bird watching, and they are in their late 20s now, I think, something like that, easily, probably 30. But start them when they're young, and what the goal of Raptors of the Rockies is, and with the books, with the art, with the photography, and especially with the education programs, is to get people to get excited about what's around them and to go outside. Raptors are barometers of the health of the environment. If we have a lot of raptors, our environment's in pretty good shape. And so let's go out and look and see. And we can so easily go out and observe raptors in their elements, doing their thing. So I have always said that it would be great if everyone became an ornithologist, but if they just went outside, and I make all the kids cross their hearts, you're going to go outside, you're going to hoot up an owl. Now you hoot with me. And we have to do this at the end of the day because these kids hoot for hours afterwards. So we really do want people to be aware of what's around them and to go outside and, observe weather, meteorology, or observe plant life or geology, anything, but just to go outside. And so we really are all enraptured with raptors. And I have constantly people come up to me and tell me raptor stories. And please don't send them to me. I have an old flip phone. They're this big. Okay, I can't see that. But we are all enraptured with raptures. So I invite you to check out the websites. This is Steve Palmer has set this up 20, 30 years ago, raptorsoftherockies.org. And in that way, you can see these books or purchase them, see these photos and meet our birds. It's pretty fun. And then find out of any upcoming programs that we have. I also have a blog and a Facebook. And then I have a photography website. That's really fun to stick new photos on there. That is, again, my favorite, that great blue heron. She has like a snail right at the tip of her beak. So basically, right on, brother. It's pretty exciting to be a part of this program and actually run this thing and to have the privilege of getting these books published. So I have a few favorite quotes here, and this was a little girl after we taught her how to speak owl. Thank you for teaching me how to speak owl. It's fun to speak owl. And this little boy said, when I get old enough to have a job, I want to be a raptor. Yeah, why not? Me too. So that is our slideshow, our little program. I'm going to leave that on for a second so you can see Nico and the beautiful clouds, and I'm going to get Sibley. Now, how do I get back on here? There we go. So this is Sibley. Again, we met her in the PowerPoint program, and this is an Anodon peregrine. And so that's the subspecies that is native to continental US. They actually call them Continental Peregrines. And I bought her from a breeder back in the day. They were considered endangered. And so we had to purchase them from breeders. And I got her when she was 2 weeks old, raised her right here in the house in a playpen. You can see she's pretty darn comfortable hanging out indoors. And let's see if we can get this a little better light. So she is an imprint bird and does the education and falconry. I fly her 7 months a year, every day. And so far she's only split once. I have transmitters on her legs, and I got her back at the bird refuge, hanging out at the fence, on a fence. But this bird is very famous for 3 reasons. The first reason is fastest in the world. I mentioned that, over 200 miles an hour. Now that's dangerous because they are hitting birds in the air at high speed. And that 240, that number that we quote so often, is a trained bird in a trained situation. And I don't think wild birds would do anything that crazy. I have seen her go well over 100 miles an hour. They'll come by surprise, attack birds from high above, and they'll go straight down into a vertical dive. At the end there, that's called a stoop. And at the last second, they'll throw their feet out, and they'll hit that bird in the head with what is called the hallux, which is that back toe. And I have seen her knock the heads off 2 ducks. Very, very proud, very proud. So at that point, they can pull 25 Gs, stop on a dime, and land on the bird that they've hit in the air. And they call them duck hawks, but truly ducks are a large prey item, and they're out in the open where other birds can steal them, kill them, and steal their birds. So these birds really do catch a lot of shorebirds and songbirds and smaller birds, smaller prey birds, and that they can carry back to the nest or carry to a safe place to eat. So amazing speed for a peregrine falcon. The other reason, they live all over the world. We have the 3 subspecies here, but they live all over the world, 19 different kinds of peregrine subspecies. And the third reason they're so famous is these birds were gone. They were extirpated. They were extinct and completely east of the Great Plains all the way. DDT did them in. They couldn't breed any longer, changed their behavior. And if you can't breed, your recruitment is 0. You're not gonna, your population is gonna drop, plummet, nothing. And in the West, there were a few, not many. So these birds were considered endangered. And the Anodon and the Tundrias and the Peels, all 3 of these were considered endangered in 1970. And in 1965, they had a meeting. All these people got together. They said, hey, man, there are no more peregrines left. They're gone. They're not on these cliffs anymore. They're not on these cliffs here. They're not on these cliffs here. So they had this thing called the Madison Conference. They all got together. They said, what are we going to do? And they said, we're going to take all the peregrines that are in captivity, and we're going to breed them, and we're going to let them go. And a lot of that was the Peregrine Fund doing that. And so they took the subspecies that were in captivity, which are ones from Europe and South America and maybe Australia. They took 7 subspecies and they mixed them together, and they released 7,000 peregrine falcons in North America. The guy in Canada said, no. We're only going to release Anodon peregrines, Continental Peregrines. But the genetics were diluted by all these other birds. And so truly all the birds east, well, actually, most of the peregrines now don't have this coloration. They're sort of a pure white. And the other thing is, peregrine means wanderer, and it means migration, wander. These birds don't wander anymore. They're staying put. And especially in cities, every single state has urban peregrine falcons nesting in the cities right now. Place like New York, they have over 30 nests in New York City. And these birds, what are they doing? What are they doing? What's their cliff now? It's the building, it's the skyscraper. Where is their new bath? Where's their new water supply? It's the puddles on the roof. What are they catching? Pigeons. And so pigeons are a constant food supply, no reason to migrate. So we have a different bird now. They went in 29 years, delisted. They didn't go to threatened. They went from endangered to delisted in 29 years. And now these birds are everywhere. They're more than ever before, more peregrine falcons than ever before. And to me, I don't care what they look like. I'd rather see a peregrine than not. And so we have these birds that are doing very, very well. And again, living in cities and even recolonizing cliff sites that they were on back pre-DDT. So a bird like a bald eagle, did they release thousands of these birds? No, they just banned DDT. And the bald eagle made it back up to 800 nests in this state right now, over 800 from 12. So anyway, we have the bald eagle that's made a full recovery, peregrines more than ever before. And right now, these birds come back to their cliff sites in the spring, in March, January, February, March, around March, reclaim their cliff sites. They don't build a nest, they just make a little shallow depression and lay their eggs right on the substrate and raise their young. The young will fledge about first week in July, and they'll chase their parents around and screaming and yelling, and then they're gone. So the birds here do migrate, but they're here all summer, and we can find them at these giant cliff sites. And in the Bitterroot especially, I think there's 12 nests. We were winning for a while. I don't know if we are now, but it's a wonderful thing to see. Are these peregrines, they're back, and they're catching birds and doing very, very well. So Sibley's been a pure joy for me for doing these education programs. I always tell the story that she rides in my car. You've probably seen the Subarus. I've had 7 of them. And she rides in the back passenger side, so I can look through the rearview mirror and see her. Hey, Sib, how you doing? She's looking out the window. And I was in Washington. I was in Spokane. And a guy wouldn't let me pass him, and he's just going neck and neck with me, and he's motioning, roll your window down, and I'm what? And he points over there and he goes, there's a bird in your car. I'm thinking, yeah, there is a bird in my car. She's just totally comfortable looking at him. Hi. And I said, there's 4 birds in my car. So she's been a joy, a pure joy to have, a great bird. And now Maisie is another Anodum peregrine, again, a breeder, wanted to keep this salmon cast, keep this coloration for this continental subspecies. And so we have her, and we will start flying her soon. And Sibley, I think maybe you kind of retired. So we'll see as far as hunting ducks. She did catch a duck last year. So our hunting season is exactly the same for waterfowl, and they give us another week. But our upland game bird season goes all the way from September until late March. So we have 7 months of enjoying falconry. It's a 4,000-year-old sport. And the way it was probably started 4,000 years ago in a couple different places is people saw these raptors catch things they couldn't carry. Like, she can't carry a mallard. She's on the ground plucking this mallard, right? And they would run up maybe and take the prey item, or take the rabbit from the hawk, or the deer from the eagle, the young deer, young ungulate. And then they thought, well, maybe we could catch these birds and get them really hungry and let them go and see if they would catch stuff for us. And so falconry started 4,000 years ago. It reached its heyday in the Middle Ages, and now it's kind of a few people practice it, but for me, it's kind of a private sport, and I'm really having fun. So now I guess we have time for questions. China, do we have any questions? I said we'll allow a little bit of time, and I hope that worked.
Yeah, that was great. I
Oh,
think
good.
it was awesome. Everything you shared. It's been so fun listening to you, Kate. It does look like we have a couple of questions. Both of them are from Taylor Kuhn. And the first one is, what does it take to be a falconer? You probably answered this a
There's
bit.
no such thing as a falconer.
Okay.
Okay, it's a falconer.
Falconer.
And yeah, and I'm sorry, but you need a sponsor, you need a facility, you need an exam, and I'm not able to do that. But there's a falconry, Montana Falconry Club now, or there has been for quite a while, and I can direct you that way, so we can see. But Sibley pretty much is gotten, so she's pretty fussy around flying around people, so I can't take her out with other people. She got kind of fussy, but she also comes inside when it's really cold. You should see this place. There's a pygmy owl over there. There's a peregrine right there, and there's an aplomato falcon in the back room. And it just, when it's 40 below zero, this place is crazy. But outdoors, if they're out of the wind, they're going to be okay in their element. Now, most of these birds have all their parts and pieces. Most of them are actually imprint birds, so they're fine outdoors. So this is something that takes a little more energy in the winter, but it's basically every single day I reach in the freezer and there's the pizza, the ice cream, the chickens, the squirrels, the quail, the mice, the squirrels, the heartbeat. And I get all this food out and I go around every morning and feed most of them. Then right at dark, I feed the eagles because magpies get through the top roof of the building. And then right at dark, I feed the owls. And so this is every day. So that's the other thing. What does it take to be, raptor educator? You need to have the permits and the time and the space. And I'm very proud of this place. So that was a very long-winded question to an answer. It could have been a simple yes or no. Sorry.
No, not a problem. I'm sure
Okay.
Taylor appreciates all that information. And they actually had one other question. How do peregrines being urbanized affect urban ecosystems?
That is awesome. That's a good question. And they basically have just filled a niche. It's like, why, I don't have a huge love for pigeons, and I don't think a lot of New Yorkers do too. But some of these peregrines are nesting in the craziest places, okay? And one of the things I think about in urban areas are peregrines that are nesting on bridges. And now we have a peregrine in the Bitterroot right over here, that one picture I showed you over here at One Horse Creek, on a ledge, and there's a bush and there's beautiful shade and a nice view. Well, these other peregrines in urban areas nest on just a plain metal beam on a bridge. And there's no nesting material, and it's on this cold metal, and the bridge is vibrating all the time. They have them nesting on drawbridges that are going up and down all day long. And it's all these different crazy places that these birds nest, that you would think that it wouldn't be successful, but for some reason they are. And my friend G. Pagel, who's the best raptor biologist in the world, wrote this in a book called, and it's in my book. Oh, here it is. Here's my book. There it is. You can see it's a great big beefy giant edition. But he wrote that these peregrines are nesting on nuclear energy containment buildings and cooling towers. They're nesting within bell towers of churches, next to sound cannons used to scare birds, in the flower pots on balconies of expensive high-rise apartments, in retired aircraft carriers' mast, in cranes on moving drawbridge counterweights. One peregrine even nested inside a Boeing aircraft hangar, another in a bald eagle nest on the grounds of the governor's mansion. Both of those are in Washington. And they nest on the cement or metal with no substrates. And the young often plunge into the river, into the water below, because it's difficult. These birds know how to fly, they don't know how to land. And so the urban problem, when these birds were being reintroduced, 7,000 birds that they reintroduced at hack sites, they had a very high mortality rate and in the cities. And they have somehow figured out how to not hit buildings and in glass and all that. The mortality rate is not as high as it was. Miraculously, these birds were also reproducing at 1 year of age and having a higher number of chicks. It's like they knew they were in trouble, and now they're back and they're in cities, and I think it's cool. But people tell me, walking down the street, and here comes a pile of pigeon guts plummeting down onto the sidewalk. That's an urban peregrine. Sorry about that, China.
It's very vivid.
Yeah, but it is not.
I felt like I was in that moment.
Yeah, it's certainly, some people don't care for it very much, especially those that might have like rooftop livestock chickens, that kind of thing. But I think most people are just thrilled to death. And all these buildings, so many have webcams. And that's my nest, you know. Are you watching my nest? That's my nest, you know. And I went to a place they nested in California. These people got up before dawn and went on a nearby building, and they were there all day, every single day in San Jose, looking at their birds. And you get kind of a possessive, you know, that's my nest, those are my birds. Why not?
Yeah.
Because how can you imagine the link you have with the wildest, fastest, most impressive animal in the world, and you live in a city, and there they are. So for me, it's a thrill to see them. We do see them around here, and you see them in Bozeman, flying by 1,000,000 miles an hour, but why not? You have one nesting in your apartment on your flower pot. So it's just, I think it's an honor and a thrill to be able to enjoy the peregrine falcon in places that we did not before.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
so. I'm thrilled to death. And really, when people see her, they're just like, oh. And when they see the saw-whet owl, everyone goes, ah. And all the kids go at the end, ah. They go up at the end now. People my age, that we didn't do that. So it's reaching 136,000 people by live programs, and now these Zooms and webinars. I'll be happy to be back in classrooms and auditoriums and gymnasiums someday soon.
Yes, yes. Well, we're still so glad that you could join us today and speak with us about your book and just share all of your information and experiences. This has been wonderful. I know the people who have been viewing it have left amazing comments about how this is so cool, and thank you so much, Kate. So they've
great.
enjoyed it. So yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
you know, we have hundreds of Raptor backers, we call them, and that's how this program it continues. Is Raptor backers, the newsletters that go out. I used to do 3 a year, then 2, 1. Now I'm sorry. I'll do another one next year. I promise. Yeah. I'll do 2. I'll do 2. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and it's the 24-hour-a-day bird channel around here.
I believe
I might say, you know, Kate, there's a bird on top of the refrigerator. If you're looking for her, there she is. It's Sonora.
Well, that's wonderful. Well,
okay.
Thank you so much to Kate Davis. And
thank you. I'll see you in Bozeman, okay?
Yeah, you will. Just one moment before we sign off. I just want to thank everyone watching and participating. You've all been a wonderful audience, and thank you to our event sponsors, Arts Missoula and the Whitefish Review. Just a reminder, you can purchase books from Kate Davis or by Kate Davis and many other Montana Book Festival authors at Fact and Fiction Books. Be sure to enter the code MBF when you check out on their website, factandfictionbooks.com, or you can vocally say MBF if you're buying books in store. I also urge you to purchase Montana Book Festival merchandise at montanabookfestival.com. There you can also donate so that we can continue our programming after the festival this year. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Will do. Bye-bye.
Bye.